Listen to me, my people. There comes a moment in history when silence becomes betrayal, when fear becomes a chain, and when a continent must rise to answer the call of its scattered children. And today, as millions of African descendants flee the United States and set foot upon the soil of their ancestors, the world trembles. Washington panics, and those who once claimed dominion over Black lives now ask, why are they leaving? But Africa already knows the answer. My brothers and sisters, across this continent and across the oceans, I stand before you today not as a politician, not as a figure of power, but as a son of Africa, a witness to the awakening of a people who have been silent for too long. For centuries, they stripped Africa of her children. They carried our sons and daughters across the Atlantic in chains. They built empires with African hands, wealth with African sweat, and nations with African suffering. And now, after generations of struggle, after centuries of injustice, our lost family returns home. And the powerful in the West, they are furious because they believed that Africa would always be weak. They believed that our people would always remain dependent. They believed we would forever beg for the crumbs that fell from their tables. But today, they see a truth they never expected. Africa is rising, and her children are coming home. They are not running from America, they are running toward Africa. And this, my people, is the difference that terrifies Washington. Let us speak plainly, let us speak boldly, let us speak without fear. The United States has built its strength not only on land and resources, but on people. Black people, African people, people whose culture, talent, creativity, and intellect powered entire industries. Now millions are leaving. Doctors, teachers, engineers, artists, athletes, thinkers, builders, mothers, fathers, children who dream of a life where their skin is not a target. And what does Washington say? They are panicked, not because they love those people, but because they fear losing control. They fear losing labor. They fear losing votes. They fear losing brilliance. They fear losing the very backbone of their economy. And so, yes, Donald Trump is furious, not because Africa is rising, not because our brothers and sisters seek safety, but because a system built on exploitation now faces collapse. They ask, why are they leaving? But deep inside, they already know the answer. Africa is calling, not with whispers, but with thunder. We are no longer the Africa they taught their children to insult, no longer the Africa they presented as weak, poor, chaotic, and desperate. No, my people, we are building a continent of steel and spirit, of unity and pride, of courage and innovation. Our lands are rich, our minds are sharp, our cultures are deep, our youth are rising, and for the first time in modern history, millions across the world look to Africa not with pity, but with admiration. Our brothers and sisters in America feel this change. They see the possibility of a life without fear. They see a future where police sirens no longer mean death. They see nations led by sons and daughters of the soil, leaders who speak with truth, not with permission. Africa is no longer a land people leave. Africa is a land people return to. This is what shakes Washington to its core. Let me tell you why the world is nervous, because the Africa that is rising today is not the Africa of yesterday. This Africa is learning to control its resources. This Africa is learning to protect its sovereignty. This Africa is learning to stand shoulder to shoulder with giants, not kneel before them. And when millions of Africans return from abroad, they bring not only their bodies, but their knowledge. They bring science, they bring discipline, they bring technology, they bring networks, they bring experience, they bring power. They know the systems of the West. They understand the world, and now they are bringing that knowledge home. This is what terrifies those who once believed Africa would stay broken forever. Make no mistake, this exodus is not only symbolic, it is strategic. America is losing its black workforce, its educators, its cultural icons, its scientists, its future. And when millions of African Americans choose Africa over America, it sends a message to the world. The empire has failed us. Africa will not. Washington knows what this means. For the first time in history, they face the possibility of losing the same people who helped build their power. The panic is not about compassion, it is about calculation, the awakening of a people. For too long, the diaspora was taught to be ashamed of Africa, taught to believe lies, taught to fear the very land that birthed humanity. But truth has a way of rising through the cracks of deception. Truth has a way of calling its children home. And now, millions awaken. They see Africa not as a story of suffering, but as a story of resistance. resilience, not as a continent of weakness, but as a continent of warriors, not as a land of divisions, but as a land of destiny. And I tell you today, the return of the diaspora is the turning point of African history, not because they complete us, but because together we become unstoppable. What does America fear most? What makes Washington tremble? What makes Europe whisper behind closed doors? It is simple. Unified Africans. Africans at home, Africans abroad, Africans returning, Africans rising. They fear an Africa that speaks with one voice. They fear a diaspora that stands with its motherland. They fear the merging of global black power, economic, cultural, intellectual, and political, because when Africa unites with its diaspora, the balance of world power shifts forever. To our brothers and sisters crossing the ocean to return home, hear these words. You are not guests. You are not outsiders. You are not foreigners. You are our blood, our reflection, our history, our future. Africa is not giving you a place. Africa is giving you back your place. You do not come here to start from the bottom. You come here to rise with a continent that is rising with you. We welcome your knowledge. We welcome your courage. We welcome your resilience. We welcome your fire. We welcome your resilience. We welcome your fire. You suffered for generations in foreign lands, but suffering has shaped you into steel. Africa needs steel, but we here at home must also rise to the task. We cannot call our brothers and sisters back if we do not fix our own house. Corruption must fall, cowardice must fall, colonial mentalities must fall, leaders who kneel before foreign masters must fall, systems that hold Africa hostage must fall. We must build nations that lift people up. We must build institutions that serve the people. We must build economies that create opportunity. We must treat our diaspora not as saviors, but as partners. Africa must deserve its returning children. This is our responsibility. This is our duty. Let me speak directly and clearly to those in Washington who tremble as they watch millions leave. You claimed ownership over people who were never yours. You built your nation on their backs. And now you watch them rise to reclaim what was stolen from them. You fear their departure because you fear accountability. You fear their empowerment because you fear equality. You fear Africa's rise because you fear the end of your monopoly on power. But hear this, you cannot stop the wind. You cannot chain the sea. You cannot silence a people who have awakened. Africa does not seek conflict. Africa does not seek revenge. Africa seeks only justice, dignity, and unity. But understand this well, we will not bow again. My people, we are living in a moment that will be studied by future generations, a moment when Africa turned its eyes toward the horizon, a moment when her children heard her call, a moment when the world realized Africa is no longer asking for permission. Africa is taking her place. Let the world listen. Let the world watch. Let the world learn, because the greatest chapter in African history is being written right now, not by colonial powers, not by foreign governments, but by Africans everywhere. Stand tall, my people. Stand united. Stand unafraid. Whether in Lagos or Atlanta, in Nairobi or New York, in Accra or Chicago, in Kinshasa or Detroit, we are one family, one destiny, one rising sun. The world may panic, the powerful may fear, but Africa will rise anyway. And to every returning brother and sister, we say, welcome home. Your continent has been waiting. Your people have been waiting. History has been waiting. The time has come. Africa rises, her children return, and the world watches in fear.